Show yourself, you monster.
You're next, Piccolo.
How do you know my name?
We're brothers, you and I.
So the reason Cell calls Piccolo his brother here is because Cell has little pieces of Piccolo inside of him. Cell was made to contain the DNA from all the strongest fighters who have ever been to Earth. Or maybe not all their DNA, but at least most of their abilities. That was the idea. So he would basically be unstoppable. The fuse that Piccolo did with Kami happened off-screen, so we didn't get to see or hear any of the drama about that. But the short of it is that Kami and Piccolo are two halves of the same person. And Kami wasn't exactly against the idea of refusing with Piccolo, but he wanted to make sure that he was doing it for the right reasons. But then he fused with Piccolo immediately anyway because he started sensing Cell's energy and freaked out. Well, freaked out might not be the right term, but the idea is that he sensed Cell's energy and realized he had no choice but to fuse with Piccolo. During this fight, Cell gets the upper hand and manages to drain energy from Piccolo, and then there's a complicated exchange where it turns out Piccolo was just stalling Cell so that way he could regain his energy, and Cell learned that because Piccolo fused with Kami, he doesn't have to worry about the Dragon Balls, and then future Trunks and Krillin show up, and Cell escapes using the Solar Flare. None of this is touched upon in the game.
Suppress his power level.
If you don't talk, I will kill you in no time flat. Got it?
I won't fall as easily as I did last time.
So, I mean, wouldn't he just kill you even if you did tell him? That's not a very good deal, Android 17. Anyway, between what just happened and the fight with Android 17 here, Piccolo and the others had been searching for Cell for a while, and Cell had been going from town to town, absorbing people's energy. So Piccolo's pretty stressed right now, because he knows that every town Cell absorbs makes him stronger. But the androids showing up was actually a good thing in his book, because now he just has to defeat the androids and Cell will never be able to absorb them, and that's one problem out of the way. But good things don't happen in Dragon Ball Z, so you know this has to go wrong somehow. I believe this is also the first time that Piccolo actually does use the Hell Zone grenade, and it actually manages to surprise Android 17, but he forms a magical, well not magical, but I don't know what you call it, he forms a barrier out of nowhere. So that didn't do shit, and it turns out that Piccolo and Android 17 are evenly matched. This means that if he fought Android 17 and 18 at the same time, he would be losing horribly. But Android 17 agreed to fight him one-on-one. I do believe this is the longest fight with Android 17 in the series. And it's a pretty damn good fight, because you're always constantly wondering whether Piccolo is actually going to come out on top. Dragon Ball Z loves to do this thing where they constantly give you hope that the protagonist actually has a chance. They give you hope first by having the androids show up, and Piccolo's like, oh my god, I can stop Cell now by just stopping these guys. And they give you more hope by having Android 17 fight him one-on-one. And then of course something bad happens anyway. Hope is a horrible disease, and Dragon Ball Z is going to cure you of it.
Fury bullet!
Too slow! Take this!
Finish!
Remember this day, the day I become complete.
Enough!
Cell is obviously confident in his abilities again, because he showed up in the middle of this fight to kick the shit out of both Piccolo and Android 17, and presumably 18 and 16 if he had to. Cell first approaches Android 17 and is already about to absorb him when Piccolo starts a fight with Cell, and Cell wasn't going to have any of that. He just defeats Piccolo in a matter of seconds and shrugs off all of his attacks. Then Android 17 learns of Cell's plan, and instead of being freaked out or worried like any reasonable person would, Android 17 is just like, no, I'm way stronger than you. Which that has never gone wrong for anyone in Dragon Ball Z. Only good things can come from Android 17's arrogance. That is what we've learned in Dragon Ball Z up until this point. Oh yeah, and Piccolo is supposed to be dead right now, but he's really just mortally wounded. Because of his regeneration abilities, of course. But yeah, he should really be dead.
Take this!
Finish!
Before meeting with Goku, the time for battle is at hand.
It seems we have another fool eager to throw his life away.
You'll destroy yourself if you face him.
By my calculations, my power level is equal to that of yours.
Yeah, that's pretty much how that went. Android 16 just walks up when Cell's about to kill Android 17, and he's like, no, that's not happening. Android 16 fights at this point purely to protect Android 17. Which is saying something, if you remember, because Android 16 was previously only interested in fighting Goku and no one else. But now he's fighting for a different reason. Oh, it's also important to mention that Android 16 doesn't just say he's equal in power to Cell, but also equal in speed. So Android 16 actually totally wins this fight. Which is unusual in fights where people are equal in power, but Android 16 definitely wins. He blasts the shit out of Cell with that Hell's Flash attack we just used. Creates a big ass hole in the ground. And then he immediately tells Android 17 to run away, because that is obviously the sensible thing to do. And Android 17 refuses again, arguing that with Android 16 they are more than powerful enough to take over the world and defeat Cell. And while they're arguing, Cell absorbs Android 17, the end.